Hola, and welcome to the newest episode of the Carl Experience. This will be hopefully one of two videos I'll be recording in one night. Hopefully. Now, my goal is to finish my my first podcast and then record directly for the next one, because the next one is going to be more controversial than the first, if you can believe that. Now, first of all, yes, I do have a tumbler here. I have this here. And I've been drinking this since St. Patrick's Day. So, this is very high in whiskey. It's cost like $80 per bottle. But I also haven't been drinking like entirely full glasses of it. Normally I've been filling, because this is like 108 proof. But, yeah, I've been filling a little bit. Not a whole lot. Okay. Let's get the burn out of the way first. Welcome to the Carl Experience. Welcome to the burn. Ugh. That first little snip burns. And yes, I do have water. I don't know what that was. Some sort of weird jelly. Oh, man. That first one burns going down something fierce. Okay. For right now, we're going to cover the Chauvin Trial update. Kind of burns going down a little bit. Of course, 108 proof it better, you know. Okay. The Chauvin Trial update today was amassed mainly of specialists talking. They had a pulmonary specialist, and they had, I guess, what they call a SWAT doctor, or a SWAT physician. At the moment, the SWAT physician is not certified or licensed, I think it is. Not licensed, or whatever the case is. He's an old man with a weird comb over. He's got like, a balding spot and one huge wide thread of hair going across. It looks tacky. And the guy's getting paid $300 an hour to testify at this trial. That's his going rate because the prosecution hired him. But first of all, the pulmonary specialist. For those of you who don't know what a pulmonary specialist, he specializes in blood, the pulmonary system. He testified today that George Floyd died of lack of oxygen, which the prosecution is arguing that, or they're stating that because of the hold that Chauvin had him in, it would reduce his airflow. That might be true, but more than likely, from what I've seen and heard, it was more likely the drugs that slowed his breathing down to the point where, yeah, if you've ever been stoned before and get in a dog pile, you run out of breath really fucking quick with like 9 other people on you. Or hell, even 2 or 3. But in my last podcast, I included the video of George Floyd's arrest. It was in the description in case you were wondering. So you can go back, look at the other video, and look at everything up to when they pinned George Floyd to the ground in the blood choke, as I guess they're now calling it, or whatever. But when this guy is from like Sweden or some crap, he's got a Northern European accent. I don't know whether he's German or Finnish or Danish or whatever. But he's apparently a world-renowned expert. I've never heard of him, but then again, I don't look into pathology all that much. According to the pathology and everything I've read and researched, the drugs that George Floyd was on could have caused him to have a depressed pulmonary system, meaning he would have run out of air 10 times easier than had he been sober. Now, without getting too much into the politicking of everything, I personally thought it was funny that he came to the conclusion, okay, George Floyd died because he ran out of air. He suffered from asphyxia. And then the prosecution jumps on it. Well, this is because of the hold he was on. And then they led this guy into saying, yes, it was because of this hold. Okay, it still doesn't explain the drugs. Whether you like it or not, the drugs are an integral part in that act. I'm not trying to demonize Floyd. I'm just stating the logical fact that follows. This foreign guy who's supposed to be a pulmonary specialist, white-haired, had a weird-looking mustache and some facial hair. He seemed very introverted. Like, he's used to writing papers and stuff like that. Both the guys they had on the stand today, that I'm aware of, have written books on their respective subjects or contributed to books. Okay. So you're a specialist in medicine. But I'm missing where this pathology, because they're bypassing the drugs completely. They are completely bypassing George Floyd's use of drugs. And in case you can hear something in the background, I'm listening to iHeartRadio 90s. So if you happen to hear the music in the background, it's for me. Ha ha ha. But, yeah. I just find it amazing that the pathologists, these two specialists, which are hired by the prosecution, are bothering to say, yes, in my opinion, he died of this. Medically, he died of lack of oxygen. And they're talking about this death gasp, where you try to breathe out your fingers and toes and hands. I have been in situations where I could not breathe because one situation or another, or one circumstance or another, leads you to where you can't breathe. Like a while back, not that long ago, I literally had a flake from a croissant go down my esophagus or my windpipe. And I was at a point where everything started blacking out. Everything was turning red because I was about to pass out. I hit the ground, and finally I coughed up a little bit of it, and I guess the bit had gotten wet enough it actually shot up, and I was coughing for hours. But I literally was that close to passing the hell out. A flaky crumb, went down my throat. Okay? Nobody put me in a hold. I have been in the hold that Floyd was in. I have been with somebody's knee in my neck, forcing me to the ground. What can you say? My 20s. But anyway, it shocks me that the prosecution will flat out say, "Do you feel this? You know, you're a specialist, but you're a specialist, and you've looked at all this evidence. Was this the cause? Do you feel that this was the cause?" They keep going back to the feels. I'm not saying anything's wrong with feels, but back it up with some scientific fucking fact. Don't bullshit yourself and disillusion yourself simply because the prosecution is paying you to. The prosecution isn't paying you to be biased. They're paying for your opinion. They're paying for... When the prosecution is paying for your time, if you're having to agree with their narrative to get that money, I'd say you're a bought and paid stooge. Just my own opinion, mind you. Now, mind you, I'm not saying Chauvin's innocent, but as I have been in the same hold that George Floyd was, obviously I'm still here. The only difference is I wasn't on meth and I wasn't on fentanyl. But the pulmonary specialist was led to his own opinion about what caused George Floyd's death. And the same goes to the SWAT doctor. The SWAT doctor was talking about his credentials, yada yada. This lasted like 30 minutes just getting through his credentials. It was boring, and honestly, if the court doesn't have that in hand already on record, then what the hell's the problem? It's like the lady with the cell phone who took a picture during the trial. Number one, how'd you get the cell phone in without having to leave it at your car? Number two, how the hell did you not know to turn it off? Number three, Why would you be stupid enough to do that in the first place? Goddamn, they have signs saying no recording devices at all allowed in the courtroom. Most courtrooms have that. Is she illiterate or is she just, well, I'm a media representative for blah blah blah. I don't care. They already approved certain media to be there. She is not one of those media people. Slancha. Yes, this is a sipping whiskey, so a bit harsh. The pecans and walnuts are a little strong, a little faint. There we go. There's that cherry undertow. Lovely cherry undertow. Because yeah, everybody tell me, oh, it smells of oak and smokiness. Yeah. I can taste the smokiness, but as far as all this oaky crap, no. Back to the trial. Ugh. So they both talk about death gasps and all this other crap, and they're speaking in very scientific terms. I get that. You're a scientist. Totally get that. I understand it to the max. And there my dog is spasming out because she's dreaming. Okay. Then they went to the video of Floyd crying out, where he was trying to breathe through any way he could, through his fingers, through whatever. And then they played the tape again, and I listened to the tape without bias again, not trying to hear something that wasn't there, just trying to listen. And honestly, the last half second he's talking, you can't make out what the hell he's saying. I'm pretty sure an audio specialist could do that. I'm literally quite certain they could fucking shorten that out, singular, what do you call it? What do you mean? They could amplify and single that one voice out so that you could hear what the hell he was saying. But if you watch the video like I sent in my description, you would see that everybody's trying to work on, the prosecution is trying to work on the feels part of this. The issue is George Floyd resisted arrest. He not only once, several times. Like most of that video that I posted, he was resisting the police. They had the right to tase him, use a stun gun. They had a lot of options. And when the SWAT doctor says, well, George Floyd wasn't sweating. He wasn't doing this. He wasn't doing that. Okay. By the time you felt his body, he was already dead before he. To what I understand, he was already dead before he made it to the hospital. When your heart stops beating and those drugs just stop flowing, you're gonna go cold. And yeah, this guy said that this excited delirium state was not present because he wasn't breathing rapidly. Obviously, he didn't watch the same video I did. I heard him trying to escape custody or trying to evade going to jail. I saw his breathing shorten, going short and quick. I saw him sweating. So I'm not sure. Like I said, the only thing I can assume is they paid him to have their opinion. Because everything that goes with excited delirium was there. There's 7 points, and this SWAT doctor's like, nope, he didn't show any of them. I'm thinking, dude, did you watch the actual video of what happened? The actual thing? He was sweating. He was breathing hard. He was doing all this crap. Everything, he checked off half the damn checklist for excited delirium. So I'm honestly not going to buy this bullshit SWAT doctor he's got a history with being a scientist, but I don't think his science is the right science. I think he's siding with the prosecution so he gets his fucking $300 an hour for testifying. So I will scratch him off. The other guy was short, succinct, and conclusive in what he was saying. I didn't see the whole thing. But apparently both of them saw the video, and they both seem to agree. Why, I do not know. I could not tell you. Now, the video is suggestive to say the least. And I've got to hand it to Chauvin's lawyer. He's doing a hell of a job planting seeds into everyone's mind if you don't listen to it yourself. And this is the evidence they're showing is police body camera video, which you can't find on YouTube that I'm aware of. But they've had a couple of witnesses who got up on the stand and asked when they hear it, and then they get asked if it said this or did it say something else. They're, oh yeah, you're right. He said he had swallowed too many drugs. The bad problem now is I have watched tonight's newscast literally right before I started filming this. And the news is now saying that all of the people, everybody who got on the stand, said he wasn't saying that he took too many drugs or he swallowed too many drugs. You can't have it both ways. I understand the news might be trying to create something to the shock and awe of the BLMers and the so-called liberals out there, but I don't care. I'm literally just going with the facts. When I hear one or more of their witnesses saying, yeah, he did, I can hear him saying, I heard him say that. They didn't suggest to him what he was saying. At one point, I could have swore I heard the lawyer say, or Chauvin's attorney saying, did you hear this or did you hear something else? If you heard something else, please let us know. And two of them, at least, were like, yeah, you said exactly what he said. He said exactly what you're telling me, what you're suggesting to us that he said. Is not prompting. And this is then they want to make sure. Then the attorney wants to make sure, so he makes them listen to. He has them listen to it again, and guess what? They agree again. Okay. This is the bad problem. Is the news is doing this because that means the news is starting to outlie lie about the trial. I was listening to it for that part, and the news outlets are now saying that nobody agreed with that, and I know for a fact they did agree. There were one or two witnesses who couldn't make out, who literally were like, no, I can't hear what he's saying. I get that. I understand that. But flat out saying he didn't say that, they didn't hear that at all, you're being bought and paid for by the prosecution, and you're supposed to be telling the truth. If you don't know what the last two words were, or the last half second, because you can fit a lot of words in a half a second. Look at my talking. Come on, I can fit a lot of crap in there. They're lying on the stand under oath that he did not say those words. I can't actually say he said those words, but I'm going to say I don't know what his last half second of talking was. It sounded like I think I swallowed too many, and then it sounds like too many, and I can't make out anything beyond too or many. I'm not sure which word it is, but I get to that point, and then it becomes indecipherable because of all the other background noise. But at least I'm intelligent enough to differentiate that. I'm not going to extrapolate on it and say, well, maybe he said drugs. When the attorney suggests it, and then you hear it, you probably ought to take a day off and come back and listen to it again. And then, if you still don't hear anything, no, I misspoke. I'm sorry. I didn't actually hear anything. That last half second of audio because it's inaudible. It's unintelligible. I would feel much better if they did that. Now, for those of you who don't know, you can watch the trial for free on Court TV if Court TV is free for you. Here in Wichita, Kansas, it's on 31.5. Regular TV. You don't have to pay to watch it. I spend about 2-3 hours a day watching it and watching the highlights from Court TV because they show highlights and sometimes they misjudge a point. They'll say one thing and it's out of context of what actually happened. But that's how I've been keeping track. And with that, the trial of Derek Chauvin. This podcast is now completo. My next one will be more controversial. So have fun and see you here in a minute.